All right, so let's try number 47, which is super fun. So here's the setup. There is a person, okay? And north is that way.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the person walks west for a while and then north for a while. West for a while and then north for a while. That's east. Let's actually.
Wow.
Smash, define your reality. Okay, so we're walking west for a while and then north for a while. And yeah, this guy's all screwed up.
It's a mirrored world.
Okay, so here's the setup for A. In A, they say the person walks 10 miles in total. If W represents the distance west she walks, and D represents the distance from home at the end of the walk, is D a function of W, why or why not? Okay, so W is how far she walks that way. We know she walks 10 miles total. And we're wondering about this thing here. That's D. And I'm wondering, is D a function of W? How about,
Well, because
Makes
the
it
triangle,
easier.
it doesn't
The other
answer
half.
the how far west
Yeah.
she walks isn't dependent on. Well, it is dependent on how far the distance it is. So
Okay.
the distance is independent because no matter what, she's always 10 miles away from her house. But she could just walk a little west and then north the rest of the way.
so what we know is that she walks 10 miles total, right?
Yeah.
I put no.
Not that
because
she
we don't know.
ends up 10 miles away,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Because if she walks, say, 5 miles and then 5 miles,
Yeah.
she ends up the square root of 2 times 40, or times 5 miles,
Yeah.
right? Which is not 10.
That's true. Yeah.
You guys see that? So let me figure out, how far is this, right? If she goes W miles that way, and we know she walks 10 miles total, how far is this? You guys lay your hands on that
10
one?
minus W.
Yeah, that's 10 minus W, right? You guys see that? Okay, how far is D then?
W squared plus 10 minus W squared.
It's a Pythagorean thing.
So what I know is that D squared at least, right, is W squared plus 10 minus W.
Yeah. Squared. All of the squared. Yeah.
Good, make sure you get the quantity, right? Because the whole side is 10 minus W. Okay, now what?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'd like to solve for D, right? So how do you solve for D? Square up both sides?
Yeah, get rid of the squares because you have squares throughout everything. So you have a
Are you
W
doing
squared.
something crazy?
What?
So let's, that would be crazy. The square is already completed, man. D squared is stuff. Just extract roots from here. So we're gonna plus or minus square up both sides, right? So I'm gonna get D is,
W plus 10 minus W.
no. Careful. So I think we get the square root of W squared plus 10 minus W squared. And don't cancel this and those.
No, you can if you
'Cause
you
it's a
can
plus,
separate
that's
it
all
by
one number.
doing the square root of W squared plus the square root of
It's one whole term, whatever you do to one.
That's
side.
illegal. The reason that's illegal is that the Pythagorean theorem, this D, should be shorter than the sum of those.
okay, yeah.
Right? That would just say that this distance is always this thing plus that thing.
Yeah,
That would be that distance equals 10 always,
that's true.
which is
yeah.
true in some lands, but not in the usual place that we operate. So be careful with that. The grouping symbol here comes first, so you have to do this addition before you can take the square root.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, see that? So you can't split it across the square. I lost something here now. Okay, see the other thing I lost? I lost the plus or minus. Why did I pitch the plus or minus?
Because you can't have a negative sideline.
She's not
Yeah,
walking
because
backwards.
she's not negative distance from home, right? You guys see that? I at least put it here so I knew to think about it, but I did pitch it constant. I did pitch it after a little thought. Okay? Now, my question is this thing a function of W? Like, if I put a W in, do I get a D out consistently? Or is there some kind of unfunctioning mishmash?
No, I think it's a function.
Okay. Why? What does it need to be a function? What am I talking about? Unfunctioning.
Pass the vertical line test.
Good. It has to pass the vertical line test, right? For every input, there has to be one and only one output. You guys see that? If I put an input in here, is there any chance involved? Like, is there any way to get a second output? No, that's what, I got rid of that when I pitched the plus or minus. You guys see that? If I had to leave the plus or minus in there, this wouldn't be a function. But I had a good reason to pitch it, and so this is a function. Cool? So I'm going to answer this with D is a function of W. Period.
Question.
Sure.
Why would D be represented as the hypotenuse of a triangle? It doesn't say that 10 miles is the distance from her home, it's the total distance she walked.
Yeah, 10 miles is the total distance she walked. That's this. Her distance from home is as the crow flies. Right? She doesn't have to walk south then east to get home. She can just walk across the fields.
Huh, okay.
You guys see that? Like, this is the one where you're limited to the sidewalks, and this is the one where you can just walk across the middle of the soccer field.
Okay, so I see that. So would it be valid to say that, what are my exact words? I said it was a function because for any value of W, D must be unique because if you have a certain
Perfect.
W, the other one has to be a certain number because only one other value would equal 10. Would that be-
So that would be, I think this thing is a function of W. And what you want is distance as a function of W. So your reasoning is definitely correct for this. And this being a function and this Pythagorean theorem relationship means that D is also a function. Cool? So that's A. What's B? Suppose now that X is the distance that she walks in total, is D a function of X? Why or why not? So in other words, they took 10 away from us, right?
And only put one side, but we don't know that distance.
Yeah, so they went back and they said, okay, well, we're going to take some of this stuff away. And we're going to say, okay, this is X now, total walking. So that's going to be X minus W. You guys see that? And now I'm wondering, is D a function of X, rather?
No, because the different sides can change, and that way it'll give you
Yeah, you guys see that?
outputs.
It's not just a function of X, right?
Yeah.
It's also a function of W. So I think probably not. So what I would write is, no, it's a function of both X and W. Okay, see that? No, it's not a function just of X. It needs more stuff. Let's go with that. And the way I would write that is I would just do this. I would say, how with that? D depends on both X and W. Cool. I want to get you guys used to this. You don't really do stuff with this until Calc 3, but it's nice for thought processes earlier. Cool. So don't be afraid to cram more than one variable into an input. Other things?